Whenever a new game is released, we will always see some characters that function as bosses, like in Super Mario Odyssey. Here we got a bit of a different group of henchmen called the Broodals. However, were they any good? Did they have any clever moves or interesting and challenging tactics? Well, let's find out. The Broodals are a group of villainous rabbits who double as wedding planners in Super Mario Odyssey. They hail from the dark side of the moon, specifically a location known as Rabbit Ridge, and Bowser hired them to plan his wedding to Princess Peach. However, Mario then tries to stop them, battling them throughout the game's many kingdoms. All of them have their own unique tactics and attacks, which makes every encounter with them special. Now, in order to find out what the strong and weak points of these bosses are, we will look at them one by one at the following points. We will start off by looking at the concept idea and then the fight itself to see if they succeeded in creating the effect they wanted, and to see if the battle itself is also good. First up, Topper. He's the leader of the Broodals and is the member in charge of client relations. He was designed so that the player could fully enjoy playing with the cap to hit him, and his height was chosen so that Mario could easily jump on his head. However, did they succeed in these areas? Well, in battle, he stacks 2 copies of his hats atop his regular one before skipping towards Mario. Mario must knock off his hat using Cappy so he can jump on him. But once that happens, the hats will slide around, spinning like a Koopa shell, and can be hit for 1 heart each. He also has an attack where he spins along the ground level with the hats on his head. This attack can make him dizzy, giving Mario a good opportunity to strike. After he is hit, he will hide in one of his hats, and all 3 will bounce around like shells. At this point, Mario must hit the hat he is in to stop him, with the other hats again providing hearts. Now that's kind of how the fight goes, and when it comes to their goal of introducing the hat throwing mechanic and letting you play with it, this was a huge success. As soon as the battle starts, you already have an idea of what you need to do, and in an instant you can see that it's the right tactic. So most players will get it immediately, but it can still be incredibly tricky even the first time you encounter him. The hats that will go around the entire arena and random spins he does with his hat can easily get to you. And they can up the difficulty quite easily in later fights by giving him more hats and therefore more effective attack options. In my opinion, this boss is a great start to the game and does exactly what it's supposed to do and isn't easy even. It really requires you to pay attention because you can be attacked from every side. So it's a very high-paced and dodge-filled fight. Now for our next Broodal, Harriette. She's the Broodal in charge of the pyrotechnics displays. Now 3 distinctive aspects of Harriette's design are the use of hair to attack Mario, the hard hat that protects her head, and that she's supposed to be unpredictable. Let's see how that turned out. In the fight, she throws bombs at Mario using her braid, which he has to knock back by hitting them with Cappy. However, if it explodes, it will leave a puddle of lava. After a while, if Mario didn't knock back any bombs, she throws a much larger bomb which is attached to her hair and gets stuck in the ground, so that it can be thrown back easier. When Harriette gets hit by a bomb, she loses her protective helmet, allowing Mario to jump onto her head to score a hit. Then she puts on a new helmet, withdraws her body into it, and starts flying around like a UFO, while dropping numerous bombs on the battlefield. So she uses explosives instead of a hat, which adds some difficulty because they also leave behind lava. This will limit your movement options, maybe even more than the hats of Topper. Now when it comes to integrating the hair and hard hat into the battle, it certainly worked out great. You can even cut corners in the fight by throwing your hat at the bombs when she flies around like a UFO, hitting her with it. So when it comes to those 2 things they wanted to integrate, they succeeded, both from a style and mechanic perspective. However, she's still quite predictable. After the first battle, you know what she's capable of, and she doesn't really do anything to throw you off rhythm or surprise you. So in that regard, they failed. But still, the fight is a lot of fun, engaging, and gives you a lot of options. Now for our next rabbit, Rango. He acts as the group's bouncer. He was designed tall enough that the player could enjoy using the cap as a trampoline to hit him. However, is this really achieved? Well, he attacks by throwing his hat like a boomerang, which resembles a grinder or a circular saw. Mario must throw Cappy at it to flip it over, then bounce on it to land on Rango, as he's way too tall to stomp with a normal jump. Rango will then partially withdraw into his hat and hop in pursuit of Mario, and after a while, or if Mario stomps on his hat, it all goes back to normal. Now right off the bat you can see that they achieved their goal of integrating the hat bouncing. However, the fight itself is one of the weakest in the entire game. Sure, later on he throws an extra hat, but still it's a really easy fight and not very interesting. Him jumping isn't a threat at all, and can be solved by just running around. Besides that, his boomerang hat move isn't that impressive as well. It's great that they were able to integrate that one platforming trick, but by the looks of it, they didn't keep in mind to make the fight interesting or challenging. After battling the other two Broodals, you really start to like them and kind of get excited to face the next one. But Rango is just a drop in quality. It's still decent, but certainly not as good as the previous two I mentioned. Next up is Spewart, the group's entertainer. When they were advancing his design, both the size and shape of his mouth, as well as the way he used it to attack, were taken into consideration. And to be honest, together with Topper, they are the best Broodal boss fights in the entire game. He attacks by spewing poison around himself before going after Mario. Sometimes he even spits out a few drops of poison and chokes on it. Mario can clear away the poison using Cappy, and his hat must be knocked off so that it can be stomped on. Each time he is hit, he retreats into his hat and spins around the arena, leaving trails of poison and coming out after a while, or if Mario stomps on the hat. This fight yet again achieves its goal. However, unlike Rango, this fight is actually interesting and fun. While you can still cheat a little bit by being fast when he charges his spit attack, it certainly challenges you, and his poison is a real threat that you need to keep an eye on for the entire battle. You can even be too greedy and charge in but get hit fully. Besides that, his flying and vomiting strategy also works extremely well and limits your movement a ton, and even forces you to move because otherwise you will be hit. So this one does what it was designed for extremely well, and also challenges the player while still giving the option of different approaches to beat him faster, but with more risk. There's a lot to this fight, and I can't really think of anything to make it any better when it comes to the style and tactics. However, there is still one version left, the almighty RoboBrood, which combines all of them together and should be their ultimate form. It attacks by stomping around and shooting bombs from its cannon. Along with the bombs, it will fire a Pokio, which Mario must capture, and you can then destroy the armor on RoboBrood's legs, either by pecking it or by knocking bombs back at it. Once the armor on one leg is destroyed, the robot will fall over and allow Mario to climb up and attack. It will then get back up again and restore its armor, which must be broken again to knock it onto the right. After this, RoboBrood will use two new attacks, charging at Mario and shooting discs that spin around the arena. Once all the Broodals are knocked out, RoboBrood falls apart in a series of explosions before launching into the sky and exploding in fireworks shaped like its pilots' faces. Now this fight is amazing. It's supposed to be some sort of final showdown right before you confront Bowser. This is basically their last attempt to stop you from getting Peach back, so they're throwing everything they have at you. Now, there are a couple of things that I like a lot about this boss fight. First off, its beautiful design. It fits incredibly well with the world that you first encounter it in, and looks menacing because of its size. Even when you end up defeating it, you get a really cool last cutscene where it flies up in the air and explodes with fireworks. In my opinion, it's the best looking and most stylized boss. When it comes to the attacks, it actually has a wide range of them, all having a different function. The bombs are there to help you but also damage you, because they bounce so you can also miss them with your pecker. Once it's down, you have to use the new enemy you took over in order to make your way up, making for a light climbing section, and the two attacks it shows off later in the fight also have a very distinctive role in the battle. The charging move forces you to get out of the way, and possibly even leave your Pokio. When it does this, you also can't hit the legs anymore. So if you were waiting to attack those, then you would be in for a nasty surprise. And the shooting discs that spin around the arena make it harder to attack the legs, and take up quite a lot of space, limiting your movement. Besides that, it's the toughest boss out of all of them, because it takes 4 hits to take down. Now, one thing I would have loved to see in this fight that didn't end up happening is some of the different moves that the individual Broodals showed off. For example, the robot could easily shoot the bombs Harriette throws, the poison vomit from Spewart, and more. This would still create a new and interesting experience, but at least includes the character and concept of the Broodals more. However, aside from that minor thing, it's an amazing fight, and the Broodals in general are great. In my opinion, it's quite a step up compared to the previous group called the Koopalings, although they have some other things that make them better. Now, did the Broodals end up becoming like their original concept and good bosses? Well, yes, and in my opinion, they beat a lot of the others seen in the series. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to watch more videos, be sure to click all the annotations, be sure to subscribe, click the bell button, do all the wonderful things. Lovely, so I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all next week. Bye!